Hi, I'm Brad Teare, and behind me is the painting I'm going to finish tonight. It's 36 by 36 inches, oil on canvas, and the underpainting is completely dry and ready to paint over. Everything looks pretty good on it, except for maybe this area here might be a little too warm. I want to make sure that my temperature doesn't get too hot there, because it's going to come forward. And even though this is in a scene from Eden, Utah, where the air is very clear and very dry, there will be some atmospheric perspective here that will push this back probably just a little bit more than this. Another area I want to be careful of is this right here. I painted a lot of distant wheat fields and distant patches of wheat and weeds that I know that I tend to paint them a little too hot. So I'll probably cool this down a little bit. Now, if I really felt like I might have difficulties matching the right color up here, I probably would get some medium like a G-gel and mix it with some cobalt blue and a little bit of zinc white and just scumble across this section here, maybe a little bit down in here, so that my color would be exactly what I want. But I feel confident enough that I can match the color I need on my palette. I probably will match this color and then just mix up a little bit of zinc white and cobalt blue and add it to my hues that I matched up here. If I remember correctly, this is probably about a number 6 value on the 9 value scale. So I'll mix up a bluish white that's about a 6, and then just add a little bit to each hue that I'm going to add into here. I probably will take the saturation down on this sky too. It looks a little too over the top for me. I use that manganese blue and I really love that color, but I think it's too much here. So I probably will just work some phthalo blue and some endanthrone blue into this area here and gray it down a little bit. For this painting I wanted to mix up a putty that's quite thick, so I'm going to use some burnt plate oil, number 8, which is really stiff. It's like taffy. I'm going to add some Galca gel to that. Now the reason I need to put the Galca gel in here is if I don't, even though this is very stiff, it'll melt on the canvas and your paint will just slide down. It's quite interesting how that works. And then this will also help it from keep it from melting. Add some chalk to it. You can see how thick that is. And that is just really thick. It doesn't seem like it would melt, but it will, believe me. So far I haven't found anything close to a perfect putty. I wanted to talk a little bit about why I use putty. There are several reasons. One of them is to simply oil up the canvas and create a surface that accepts the paint. And this is especially useful on a very rough canvas, but even with a canvas like the one I'm using today, it's helpful. Now what will happen if you don't have the putty on there is when you're applying the paint, you'll focus too much on simply covering up the canvas, and you're distracted from your true intention, which is to put the correct color and match the correct color to your underpainting. Now one of the traits of a good putty is that it has to be transparent, and that's obvious because if it's not transparent, it's going to obscure the color underneath, and it's going to shift the value. Now this putty that I'm using today is slightly whitish. It has a lot of chalk in it, but it's if you put it on thin enough, that is dimensionally thin, the putty is essentially transparent. Now another thing about putty is I like it to be very viscous, and by that I mean it to be very sticky, very thick chemically. I put it on very thin dimensionally, but I want it to be very viscous so that it will be stickier than the paint I'm applying. And the reason for that is if it's less viscous than the paint I'm applying to the canvas, it won't pull the paint off my brush. So if it's very, very thick and sticky, it'll just pull the paint right off. The consistency I like would be about the consistency of a very thick linseed oil. And you may ask, why not just use a linseed oil? And the answer to that is linseed oil will melt and drip down your canvas. So if you oiled up your canvas with straight linseed oil and then painted into that with very thick pigment, in a couple of hours you would see the paint starting to drip down the canvas. I have my putty on the canvas now, and I did mix up another batch that had about half as much of the burnt plate oil in it. So this mixture that's on here has very little burnt plate oil. It was just starting to run a little bit. So you don't want that. So I added just enough to slow the drying down a little bit and thicken it up just a hair. But the G-gel should keep it from running or melting. So I'm adding a little bit of the sky color into it. I'm using titanium white with some transparent earth yellow. I'm adding a little bit of the sky color in there just to make the greens. There's just a touch of phthalo blue in the shadows. I decided against the endanthrone blue. It was just a little too gray. I need to calm some of these areas. They're getting a little too textured. Now you have to be careful to keep the silhouette of your trees. And preserve the basic tonal values. I'm using some yellow ochre along with some transparent earth yellow there. Just trying to warm up that green a little bit.